Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
Is Finn Balor turning heel? I'm Ollie Davis, this is Luke Owen. Welcome to WrestleRamble. What do you think, Luke? This is more my theory than yours.
I was going to say, yeah, because you definitely felt that at the end of this week's episode of Raw, it was very much setting up a Finn Balor heel turn because he wasn't smiling, which is a very Finn Balor thing to do.
More so recently, though. I feel like Finn is too happy, and I wouldn't want to, I want people to be happy, but this is too much smiling for me.
He is very smiley now that he's with the Balor Club. All three of them are just grinning from ear to ear because they're best buds getting to hang out all the time, so it must be tremendous fun for them. So you felt that because that he wasn't smiling at the end of this show because he'd been curb stomped into the ground. Sorry, blacked out into the complete and utter earth, that he wasn't smiling, therefore he must be on his way to a heel turn. So maybe you should explain your theory.
Good idea. So, Finn Balor is sort of floundering in WWE for a while because he was meant to have the Survivor Series main event, but
the Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble main event.
The Royal Rumble main event with Brock Lesnar, but that was scrapped because reportedly Vince McMahon doesn't see him as over enough. This led to Balor leading an over campaign on his social media, and we were all like, well, the one thing that would get Finn Balor over is to package him within a faction of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, his former Bullet Club buddies, and they did that on the first episode of Raw this year. And
Second episode.
Are you sure?
No, it was the first. I was thinking of the Christmas Day episode, sorry.
So it was the first episode of the year. And we're like, wicked. And you thought it was just a one-off deal.
Well, I had a worry it was a one-off deal because the way they set it up just felt like it was fan service. It wasn't like, oh my God, we've debuted the Balor Club. This is the Bullet Club are finding. And it didn't really feel like that. It was just like, I'm Finn Balor. I need some friends. I found.
Where's Finn Balor? Oh, it was you.
And it was like, I need a tag team partner. I found two. And it felt like
that was all it was.
It felt like a real throwaway thing. So I had this internal worry that everyone was getting very excited for this, and I think I was just trying to quell expectation to being like, guys, let's not get too excited. This might not actually be a thing. And the reason I thought it was the Christmas Day episode is because I had this big panic. So we re-recorded a lot of stuff over Christmas. And my Finn Balor video of why WWE are wrong about Finn Balor, saying things like turn him heel, put him in the Balor Club, was going up after the Christmas episode. And I had this worry that on Boxing Day I was going to wake up and I was going to read the Raw reports and I was going to be like, oh, they're going to put Balor with Balor Club, aren't they? And that makes my video seem stupid then. But thankfully they didn't.
It just seems stupid on its own.
It was just stupid on its own.
It was a great video.
Oh, thanks, man.
But Balor's reunited with his chums, and he's so happy on that first episode, the first episode of Raw of the year. And, it seems like it's a thing. They're all still happy, and it's just too much happiness. They're all smiling. Finn's grin is from ear to ear. We just watched Mixed Match Challenge, and he is smiling. He'll walk down to the ring, huge smile on his face, and then the muscles can only hold up a smile for so long. It starts to sag, and he kind of goes, and he puts it back on again. It seems to me like this isn't just Finn being happy, although I'm sure he is. He seems like a jovial chap.
You've seen the photos with him.
It's a directive from above of the booking committee or WWE agents saying, be really smiley. Now, this is either because they're just fitting him into a babyface mold where he smiles all the time, he's beautiful blue eyes. He's a blue-eyed babyface. Or it could be because when someone smiles this much, it's like a tag team. They go, we're never going to break up, man.
Yeah.
It feels like it's foreshadowing the frown with the Shawn Michaels losing his smile with the barbershop window. Or was that later? No, it was completely separate events.
Those two are not connected.
I've just put all of Shawn Michaels' early career in one angle. It's one super angle that created HBK.
I mean, let's be honest. He's only remembered for two things. I'm kidding.
Right,
I'm being facetious.
And I just, at the end of this episode of Raw, Finn Balor takes the curb stomp.
The curb stomp.
Sorry, the blackout. And it was because Jordan tripped him. So he's like, damn, that was annoying. He's been screwed over. The previous week, the Balor Club occupied a kind of tweener role where they just let the Miz Taraj beat up Roman Reigns.
And they played heel in the match.
They're much better suited for a heel faction. If you're going to go up against the Shield, You want that dynamic there. And when the camera held for so long on Finn Balor at the end of this episode of Raw, it's like 2 minutes. 2 minutes of just on Finn, and that's a long time for TV. And it felt like at first it was a mistake, or maybe they were filling time. But yeah, I think it was because it was almost like Matt Hardy's woken, broken, yes, in the corner, delete. This was Finn Balor being like, I've had enough. This is sort of me, semi-concussion, deciding that we're going to be bad guys now. And hopefully that happens as a big angle at Raw 25, or maybe and to lead into the Rumble.
I agree with you, because in the sense that I would like to see them turn heel. I've mentioned this before on the show, but I think that a heel Finn Balor is the best direction for him at the moment, because as a babyface, you're so low down. You're under Roman Reigns, you're under Seth, you're technically under Jason Jordan, who is still a babyface. I'm doing big air quotes for podcast listeners.
R-Truth,
obviously. Yeah. So you're the further you go down, like you just keep falling. But if you turn heel, all of a sudden, you're like the top heel in the company, on Raw at the very least, because who is the biggest heel on Raw at the moment?
So
The Miz.
You forgot Brock Lesnar, sometimes a babyface. Braun Strowman is
absolutely.
the actual most over babyface. So you're completely right.
Yeah.
Raw has a heel problem.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
So actually, if he turns heel, then he becomes the number one heel on Raw, especially if he turns heel against the likes of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and kind of puts himself back into that main event picture, and then it's the Miz below him, and they're never going to push Miz above a certain level at this stage, and quite rightly so. I think the Miz is perfectly suited to that position he is on the card. So this is a perfect chance for Finn to take on the number one heel on Raw.
Haha, it's a Raw review looking jacked, man.
Now it's time for the play-by-play of the actual Raw review. We're still coming up with the new format of the WrestleRamble on the fly. Be a bit more rambling in these parts if you like that style of rambling. But if you don't like the rambling, you can skip to certain topics like Braun Strowman getting rehired, and the rather baffling Stephanie McMahon booking decision, the Smackdown review, or the lackluster US title win. That they're all coming up.
And if you do, sorry to interrupt, if you do like your rambling, I highly suggest downloading the WrestleRamble podcast version of this show on your podcast provider of choice, because you do get that's basically where we do all of our inane rambling that's not usually about wrestling.
I've got a great podcast exclusive barbershop anecdote for the podcast.
Well, I've got my root canal
to
talk about.
Well, it's going to be a corker. Raw kicked off with Braun Strowman coming out to the live crowd and saying he's going to tell us a short story, and it was quite strained. Like, Braun is really good at delivering these sorts of lines, but the lines weren't very good. So it was like, a monster among men stood a tool over a beast and a machine, and I guess Kurt Angle's music was meant to cut him off, but there was a pause. And then Kurt Angle came out.
I mean, it felt like that was his whole story.
Yeah.
It was a very short story. He was not kidding when he said this is a short story. It was like, it wouldn't even be entered into like a short story competition.
It was a haiku.
A haiku, you mean?
A haiku. The wrestler. That's what they're called. That's what haikus are named after.
Oh, really? Yeah. Haiku, of course they are. After Meng.
Long tradition was named, it came up in the 90s.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Meng biting off the noses of bar patrons who tried to tell him that wrestling's fake.
Beautiful, beautiful haiku there. Beautiful haiku.
I thought this was a very goofy promo. I'd really, because, I mean, I shouldn't say it's goofy really, because Braun is a cartoon character. So it's fine for him to cut Saturday morning villain dialogue. But at the same time, it's rather goofy.
I rewatched Captain America: The First Avenger last night. Mm-hmm. That has some Saturday morning comic book villain characters. Red Skull is just hamming it up.
That's when the MCU didn't know what it was.
Yes. Confusing times.
It's before Joss Whedon ruined everything by having every scene end in a punchline.
It was like, are we going to do the Joss Whedon thing, or are we Tim Story's Fantastic Four movies from the mid-90s? We'll figure it out. I'm sure we'll choose the right path.
Anyway, Kurt Angle came out with security, and he had something to tell to Braun, and this sparked Booker T off on quite a tirade throughout the show, really. But Kurt Angle came out to not only remove Braun Strowman from the triple threat match at the Royal Rumble, threatening us with a Brock Lesnar versus Kane main event at the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks.
In 2018.
In 2018. But also firing him outright from Raw. And Braun took it well.
Did take it well. What do you feel? Because there's been a lot of criticism. I didn't mind it because it was, with Braun gets a lot more leeway from me because of the nature of his character. Like, I wouldn't let Bray Wyatt get away with supernatural stuff, but if Undertaker does it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's the same with Braun. Like, Braun can do these quite goofy storylines, and I'm okay. So when he grappled part of the lighting rig down last week, and he very badly injured Brock Lesnar and Kane, I guess the consistency argument would be, why wasn't Roman Reigns reprimanded when he actually tried to kill Braun last year with the truck? Why wasn't Kane reprimanded when he put him into the garbage truck?
Why wasn't Braun reprimanded when he tipped Roman Reigns over in the ambulance?
Sure. So that is a logic hole.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, but we will go through that logic hole.
But that's the way that WWE is now. It's just like the rules change each and every week. People have different opinions each and every week, so it's fine. You just treat every episode like it's a start of a new season.
I think that's how people should watch WrestleRamble from now on.
Well, every WrestleRamble is someone's first
Yeah,
WrestleRamble,
yeah.
as
Thank
Stanley used to say. So Braun, like the security guards. At first, I thought the security guards did a really bad job because they essentially just stepped aside and let him walk up the ramp. And I was like, guys, I'm pretty sure you're meant to escort him out. But then they did. They escorted him out of the building. Or so we thought. Then he stopped and just killed these poor security guards.
This is not a play-by-play. There was a Titus Worldwide match in here.
Oh,
Should we just do all the Braun stuff?
I've got it here. Braun killed the security guards.
So oh no, you're right.
Thank you very much. I thought it was right.
Apologies.
Yeah.
I thought that came in the next segment.
No, Braun kills an office
Woe betide
next.
me.
Yeah.
Kills an office and a catering room.
Yep, and then
Michael Cole.
And then Michael Cole.
Oh, and then the production truck.
Yeah, well, the production truck, then Michael Cole. So he killed the security guards, tossed them hither and yonder, and
Toss them off. Hither and
and then he said something like, "I don't leave here till everyone gets these hands. These hands.
These hands.
It was so,
These hands."
Again, it's Braun Strowman having this goofy Saturday morning cartoon villain dialogue. And my favourite of his still being like, "You put me in a garbage truck." That's so
It's
good.
babyface cartoon. He's a villain. It was
Well,
awesome.
no, because if these had come out of a Saturday morning cartoon villain, you'd be like, yeah, Skeletor could be saying these lines. You'd be like, yeah, I buy it. But He-Man would never say, "I'm not leaving here till everyone gets these hands."
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you're right.
Skeletor would say, "Everyone's leaving here until they get these hands."
I'm just very into the Strowman character, and I thought this was like a greatest hit. Logic holes there were many, but this was like a greatest hits of wacky Braun.
Oh, wacky Braun.
And it worked so well because Brock Lesnar wasn't there. Whereas last week it felt a bit awkward because you had the legitimacy of Lesnar and his UFC background with the goofy stuff of Braun. I think you can build those two things separately and then they can collide, like the No Mercy match. There was a lot of expectation. So yeah, but this worked because he was left alone.
Who would win in a fight of wackiness? Wacky Braun or Wacky Dean?
Dean's wacky in a different way, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
He might take you to Disneyland on a whim.
He might wear a different T-shirt when you're expecting something else.
He might get weapons from various hardcore legends and then just use chairs.
He might say that certain words trigger him when they haven't triggered him before.
Well, he's a lunatic fringe.
Crazy haircut.
Real attention to detail here. I thought the security guards really looked like genuine security guards. Not like wrestlers.
I was going to say, these lads look like wrestlers.
The guy the thing that Strowman walks out, he's ready to walk out the arena. He's like, fine, let me walk out on my own accord. Just don't touch me. Fair enough. So he's actually opening the door to leave the arena. And it's like, that's all you had to do. Your job's done. And what does this one security guard do? Put his hand on Braun's shoulder and be like, yeah, you gotta go. He was going! And that's what set Braun off. But that particular security guard had a beard styling, sort of a stubble styling that only It was shaved in weird parts to give it a pattern design that only wrestlers would have.
Yeah, he had a sideburn fade. That's what I would describe it as.
Yeah, that's very eloquent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But they took a hell of a lot of bumps. Props to the security team.
Yep.
One guy was not only thrown over a table and then hit the very hard-looking floor, he was then thrown into the sky and then down through a table with no padding.
Yeah, he flew quite far. But then we got, as you quite rightly pointed out, a tag team match, a rematch from last week between the Bar and Titus Worldwide.
So I'm so eager to get to this.
Did you like this match then?
I thought it was fine. Totally fine. I like the Titus Worldwide act. I was worried it would be 50-50 booking. But I actually am a fan of this segment because it furthered the story of the tag division without giving us another Sheamus and Seth Rollins match.
I completely agree. I also really enjoyed this. My only complaint about it, or my only criticism about it, I would say, because actually what I really liked was they played off the finish of the last match when Sheamus went to go and hit Apollo, and Apollo did his little moonsault thing onto Cesaro. Only this time Cesaro, the wise man, thought, well, I'm not falling for this again, got out the way and attacked him. And I like how they kind of played into the finish of the previous match. But at the end of it, so Jason Jordan's music hit, and that distracted the Bar, and then Titus Worldwide got the win. My complaint is that there was absolutely zero focus on Titus Worldwide, which kind of makes their win redundant. Like there's a point in this show when I think it was either Michael Cole or it was Todd Phillips, as I called him on the last show, said, well, wins and losses matter here in WWE. And I thought, well, this match suggests that they don't, because Titus Worldwide won here, but all the focus is on Seth and Jason and the Bar. So this win's done nothing for them. They're still in the same position they were before, and they've got 2 clean wins now over the Bar.
Well,
it's cleanish.
If the Bar win back the titles, then I would hope Titus Worldwide would get a title shot on a Raw.
I'm hoping that this elevates them and actually puts them into sort of title contention.
So Jason Jordan, as you noted, was the man who caused the distraction, the dreaded music playing. We've got to look, then we lose the match. Now Jordan didn't get physical. Although he was in the show a lot, which of course I'm a fan of, he didn't get physical at all. And this is, I guess, because he's reportedly injured, dealing with a nagging injury.
There's a lot of people on that injured list at the moment.
Terrible timing for Seth Rollins, because, the Shield, all of the live event dates through last month and January and February are sort of built around the Shield reunion tour. Dean's out injured. Okay, we make this last minute, really quite inspired booking decision to put Jordan with Rollins. And now Jordan might be, hopefully it's a minor thing, but
yeah. We'll see what goes on there. So then after that we had Braun killing an office. He went into, I would say, the most rubbish looking, slow sort of designed office. Like, it wasn't even an office. There was a plant pot and a couple of things hung up in a TV.
It was porn set levels of set design.
That is exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, really rubbish. It was just, it was like, we need to make this look like an office. What can we cobble together in our box of gimmicks that we've got in the truck? Well, have we got a sofa? No, but I have got this ficus. Okay, let's put the ficus in there then. And then
would have thought they would have had at least one pure country, pure heart poster lying around to hang on the wall.
Well, Daniel Bryan's got all those.
Yeah, he's bought them up.
So he went into Kurt Angle's office, again doing big air quotes for podcast listeners, and couldn't find Kurt, so he just destroyed the place. Smashed up that TV good and proper.
Really good shot. I can't remember what he threw into the TV, but it hit it right in the middle.
Yeah.
And it obviously broke it.
Absolutely, yes. And I thought this was quite cool. And then stormed into catering. And you had this guy run up, like a Godzilla movie, run up and was just like, guys, Braun Strowman's coming. And then he runs away. And everyone goes, Bar? Yeah. And Braun comes in, grabs Kurt Hawkins, chokeslams him through a table, scares everyone off. I think Kalisto was also at the table. A masked luchador was at the table. And then the pièce de résistance had a slice of cake.
Yeah, so a guy's just standing there, frozen in terror, holding a massive cake with a large bit of cake already pre-cut. Strowman looks at him like he's going to eat the guy, but then he just picks up the cake instead and eats it. Huge pop from the crowd. I personally loved it because I really like moments of comedy in backstage environments like this, and I thought this was a very well judged moment of comedy. You said it was a bit too far.
Yeah, I wasn't massively keen. I thought it did make me chuckle, but I wasn't like that's complete. That's the cherry on top for me. It was more of a like, it's an odd addition to this scene for make him look like this terrifying monster and then have him stop and eat cake. But he's a goofy cartoon character. I should really look at it through those eyes. Someone tweeted me and said that what would have made that, or it might have been a comment left on your Raw review that said like what would have made that moment even better is if the guy holding the cake had pissed himself. Like,
wow.
It's just like
the camera pans
down and he's just got a big wet patch in his crotch. Like that would have been great because otherwise, like he's got no reason to stand there.
The guy should have been acting terrified a bit more. He was quite blank terror.
Yes, maybe that's where the comedy fell for me.
It's surprising that because Vince McMahon would probably love a urination
joke. He would love that. That's right up his alley.
We'll pitch it to him. We've got that direct line.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's how they get all of our booking ideas.
Next up, we had Cedric Alexander beating Tony Nese. Goldust and Cedric Alexander still a thing.
Goldust wrestled on 205 Live.
Yeah. Well, like we said, in gold pounds, he's under the weight limit.
That's right.
So this was actually this was a fine match, but most cruiserweight things don't get much of a reaction.
No, that's it. It's again, it's fine, but no one cares, and because no one cares, it kind of like it drags the match quality down. And I feel now that WWE have done irreparable damage to the cruiserweights division now. I almost feel like I think, as you said, it either needs to be just completely killed or rebranded as something else.
Yeah, I agree.
Just do what Impact do with the Grand Championship. Just keep renaming it. And
change the rules.
Just change the rules.
We've got rounds this week.
Yeah. Do you remember they had...
What are the rules? What?
Do you remember they had the Legends title that was something, and then it became the Legends Championship, and then became like the Global Championship, and then became the TV Championship. Just do that. Just keep changing the name because that really got that belt over.
So then we had, I don't know if this is my favourite moment of the show, but it's definitely up there. And the camera cuts backstage, and Kurt is just in his rubbish office. Not looking much different from its previous rubbish-looking state.
There was 4 things in
trashed. There. And he's talking to Rudy Charles, the best referee in WWE, and he's like, "Well, this is insane. I don't know." He actually said, "We might have to call the SWAT team." I just like, I want more of this. I don't care about the wrestling this episode. I want more terrible acting and stupid dialogue. And like Kurt's delivery.
SWAT team.
Go back and watch this segment because Kurt's delivery is it's the room levels of great and awful at the same time.
His next line was just pure gold.
So is it Mike Cohn? The referee runs in. I'm probably getting that name.
John
Cohn.
Pure country.
He runs in and he's like, "Braun's heading to the production trucks." And Kurt goes, "Oh God, those trucks are worth $12 million. And it had "Hi Mark." it was that level of tone.
Oh man.
I love that line. I love Kurt's delivery of that line. WWE have peaked. This was WWE's version of Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Yeah. This was like, it's every reaction you've seen in a Michael Bay disaster movie. When they're just like, the asteroid's going to hit, and someone stands there like, "My God, there are 12 million people there."
But it's nowhere near as good as that. It was just, "Oh God, those drugs are worth $12 million. It was like one word.
Yeah.
Because he mumbled hard. I love that line.
He also butchers Stephanie McMahon's name in a little bit as well, because he... Yeah, we'll come on to that. But anyway, so Braun then continues his tirade. He goes to the production trucks that are worth $12 million. He walks in and throws some bits of paper around and says great lines like, "What does this button do? If I push this button, does the show go off?" It felt like when you take a school around a TV production studio and you just got that one kid that's actually even better, Home Alone. That kid that they think is Macaulay Culkin when they miscount it. And he's just standing there like, "What mileage do you get? Do you get this? Do you get that?" That was essentially what Braun was here, where he was just going around intimidating people, asking questions, like a true monster.
In a previous life, I used to work in broadcast transmission. So this setup was familiar to me. So I got a bit of a kick.
Yeah. What do those buttons do?
Probably queue up adverts, set up the next pre-roll.
Is it just where Kevin Dunn sits there with his his board of his 12 different cameras where he just does that throughout matches.
Well, I say half of the buttons just there for show. They do nothing.
Yeah.
It's like on the Star Trek. So Braun then walks out. I didn't see Dunn in there.
I don't think Dunn was there.
Because he prefers the dark, doesn't he? He just sits in the corner.
Well, and this wasn't a real production truck. I don't think it was anyway.
I mean, maybe it wasn't it was definitely a real production truck, because no way they spent that much on a 30-second set.
I think this was all...
What? They blew the budget on that and not The Office.
Yeah, I thought this was definitely a gimmick. This was a worked production truck.
It was definitely a real production truck.
Kevin Dunn would have been there.
But maybe they've got a couple of production trucks, which millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. So Braun comes out, goes to the front. He's now trying to drive off with it. They do. Speaking of Star Trek, in the truck they do we're just going to move the camera, and so I guess let's try and do it.
Whoa!
But if you were to move the camera, it would look like the room's shaking. Podcast listeners won't get that.
No,
that visual gag.
If I remember to, I'll edit that in.
Yeah. How? What? How?
Just with edit points.
Oh, but would you put sound effects of us falling around?
No, I just move the camera around. Maybe if I can find some sound effects, I'll do that as well. Set myself up for a fall here.
But he can't go that far, so Braun gets out, and Kurt's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And Braun's like, "I'm gonna tip this over," and he tips it over, and then it gets This is fine, but the presentation was a bit obnoxious.
Yeah. So I watched this 3 times. I watched it once. As it was happening, and then I was like, God, there was a lot of cuts in that. So I went back and I counted how many cuts there were. There were 19 cuts in this one shot of him, or this one moment of him tipping over the truck. And I was like, 19 cuts is a lot. How long did it actually go? So I went back and watched it a 3rd time. It was 20 seconds. There were 19 cuts in 20 seconds. And I wonder why it didn't really have an effect on me, why I didn't really... I didn't mark out for him pushing over the truck the same way I marked out for him pushing over the ambulance or anything like that. Maybe it's law of diminishing returns, but I think actually moreover it's it was the excessive amounts of cuts. It was a cut to Braun, cut to Angle, cut to different angle, cut to this, cut to that, cut to that, cut to that. And I was like, it's so unwatchable when you do it this time. And I noticed it again in SmackDown during the Samir and Sunil beatdown of Bobby Roode. Because you've got the camera zooming in and out with every punch, and you're cutting every second, it just you get motion sickness after a while.
I can... On paper, it's you want to convey that sense of chaoticness and frenzy. But in practice, it takes me out of the action. I get a bit disorientated, can't really get the spatial relationships right in my mind. And I much prefer everything to be a lot more restrained.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of technique where you do cuts every second is what action directors do when they can't direct action. Because it's just a way to hide the fact that you can't direct action. You just make it look very choppy and things like that. And you don't need to do that here, apart from the fact that they make films, not wrestling shows. But it just doesn't work for me, considering as well, as many people pointed out to me on Twitter, and you said yourself, there's a video of it on Instagram that they posted, which was all done from one shot, and you can't see the gimmick that's helping Braun tip over the truck.
Because there isn't one.
Obviously because there isn't one. But, that looked so much more impressive. And it actually had more of an impact.
It builds the tension better, I think.
I completely agree.
So Braun, after tossing off a truck, he goes back to the main arena part, so in front of the live crowd, and he goes for the announcers. And Booker T almost pushes Michael Cole in front of him. Take him! And Braun picks up Michael Cole, struggles a bit to pick up Michael Cole.
He had just tipped over a truck.
Yeah, he's got a bit of DOMS, delayed muscle onset, whatever it's called. And he goes to, do something horrible to him. But Kurt comes out and he's like, I've spoken to Stephanie McMahon to stop this. You're rehired and your match is back on.
Thank God Steph was here to save the day, because incompetent Kurt Angle can't do anything right. But you know who can? Brilliant Stephanie McMahon. She can do everything right.
Yeah, so this was WWE, Kurt... Brilliant delivery of that line aside. He hasn't been a good Raw general manager, has he? It's been nice seeing him back, but the same thing happened to Mick Foley. WWE, unless you're a McMahon or a Helmsley, or Bryan's been very good, but it is a thankless task to be an authority figure on a Raw or SmackDown show, because you're not going to get booked with any credibility unless you are a McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what happened to Mick Foley. It's what's happening to Kurt Angle now. And he's made to look like a doofus and a lackey.
Yeah,
So-
and that really does undermine everything that Kurt does from then on, which also is highlighted later on in the show, but I'll come on to that perhaps. So anyway, so Braun then, Kurt Angle says, you're rehired, you're back in the triple threat match. Braun decides that he's not finished with Michael Cole.
These hands.
So he picks him up and he throws him onto, I would say conservatively, 100 people who just caught him in the safest manner possible, and then all sort of fell over backwards very slowly, and one of them shouted very loudly, "It's all right, we've got you."
That's what security guards would do.
Yeah, I know, but they're all meant to be like taken out by the sheer force of this
Of 180-pound Michael Cole.
100-pound soaking wet man, just like thrown into them. So it almost felt like, I was like, wow, Michael Cole's not on this show. We can't be on the rest of this show. If you're going to sell the devastating nature of him falling down a little bit very slowly, who's going to provide commentary? Who is providing commentary, Ollie Davis?
Well, guess who I found backstage?
Who'd you find backstage?
Todd Phillips.
Oh, Todd Phillips. Oh, thank God Todd's here.
Yeah, good old Toddy. He came out. I swear, if I close my eyes, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
There was a hilarious moment. I got a tweet from someone yesterday saying, like, oh, it was hilarious when Michael Cole said this line. And then someone went out and was like, actually, that was Tom Phillips. And they were like, and I actually thought, like, I couldn't tell the difference.
I think I prefer Phillips just because he's got more credibility just because he hasn't been around as long as Cole and stupid heel turns and whatever. But yeah, again, why is Tom Phillips backstage?
Yeah.
It just opens a few more questions than it's worth. Why not just have... It would feel like it was a bigger deal if Corey and Booker T were like, oh man, we weren't planning on that happening. We're just going to have to lead the rest of the show ourselves.
And it would have really been awful to have Corey... I mean... Yeah, I think I could just gone for Corey and Booker doing commentary. Although it does bring to mind, do you remember it was the Raw after WrestleMania when Brock F5'd Cole, and then like the commentary team was completely destroyed, and they sent poor old Byron Saxton out there to commentate on his own, and it was among the worst hour of TV ever because, I know you're a big defender of Byron, but this was before
the Saxman.
This was before the Saxman had found his character. This is when Byron Saxton was just. Hello, my name is Byron Saxton, and and then because it was so bad, they had to send Jerry Lawler out as well to be like, "Can you go save this? This is horrendous. Please go out there and save this." So maybe you would have had a little bit of that, but yeah, Tom Phillips coming out and being like, "Oh, hey, I wasn't planning on being here." I was like, "Well, thank God you were here because we need a play-by-play commentator." Then spent the rest of the time going like, "Well, I don't watch Raw."
Yeah.
So like, well, why were you there then?
Yeah, it wasn't good. But Braun's stuff overall, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I thought that was
it was a fun
narrative thing. Although I do wish it was spaced out throughout the episode, rather than culminating at the end of hour 2.
Well, considering how flat the end of the show was, you really could have spread this out over the 3. That aside,
that was the biggest pop of the night.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. You could have spread this out over 3 hours.
So next up, we had Asuka beating Nia Jax in what I thought was a cracking match.
I thought this match was awesome.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this. I thought this was great. There was no mention of their NXT feud, which is that kind of continuity thing that annoys me a little bit because I know that they do it to protect Nia Jax because you don't want to say like, oh, Asuka's already beaten her. And it's this WWE thing where they're like, oh, we don't like to mention that people have lost before in things that you might not remember. So, reminded me of when they did Undertaker Triple H at WrestleMania, and they were like, this is the first time that we've collided at WrestleMania, ignoring the fact they'd already had a WrestleMania match, but they want you to forget that and just pretend that this is the first time. Whereas, actually, you could have done a really nice story part by this. Like, yeah, you have already beaten me at WrestleMania, but that was 10 years ago. And look at all I've done in these last 10 years. I'm a completely different wrestler now. You could have done this with Nia Jax. Like, yeah, you did beat me in NXT, but look at the domination that I've had on Raw, and now you don't stand a chance against me. And that builds Nia Jax's character up more than her just being Nia Jax.
Didn't get me as much.
No, it didn't. I thought it was just an interesting point to discuss in terms of WWE wanting you to remember certain things and forget other stuff. But aside from that, I thought this match was great.
Really good match, decent, fast-paced, It felt like a war at times, and I was a fan of the finish. I haven't really seen that spot before. Nia is on the ring steps on the outside, sort of facing the turnbuckle, and Asuka kicks either her leg or the steps, causing Nia to fall down in between the gap of the ring and the ring steps. And it just looked really brutal, made a big clanging sound as you get on the ring steps. And Asuka gets in the ring, Nia follows, but the referee deems she cannot continue the match because she can't stand up. Protects Nia. Asuka gets a win. She's undefeated. And, most crucially, this made me want to see a rematch.
I've written here, I'm really looking forward to a pay-per-view rematch because I think this match will be even better without the ad break in the middle. I'm really excited to see this as a pay-per-view match. Great Booker T line in this match where he said, and I quote, "Asuka's winning streak could be on the line here. You dolt, it's always on the line."
Yeah, Booker T. What more is there to say?
I've got some more to say.
Enzo Amore came to comfort Nia backstage afterwards, saying to Alexa Bliss, "No, I've got this." So, yeah, Nia sent Alexa away. Whatever.
This confusing love triangle continues.
Next up, we had Kurt Angle sort of thinking, what am I doing here?
Right, so Kurt Angle's standing there in his wrecked office, big air quotes, and I could have sworn that in the previous moment when we had Angle in his office, when he said the "my God, the $12 million" line, there were people who were clearing up the mess. They cut back to it later on. The mess is still there. So those people did an absolutely rubbish job of clearing up the rubbish.
Fair enough. And was that what you were thinking of that all the time through this segment?
Well, no, because
it's awfully messy in there.
No, because Jason Jordan was absolutely awesome in this segment. Jason Jordan walks in, and it's almost like he's blissfully unaware of everything that Braun has done and the terror that Kurt Angle, his father, has faced here. He's just all smiled, and he's like, "Dad, I'm a champion. Be proud of me."
It wasn't just that, and this is, I guess the Braun story is the most in-your-face narrative for the night. But the real one is that spanned the entire night was Jordan costing the Bar the match at the start. He thinks this is a genius move. He comes in here, like riding high off that. "Hey, Kurt, Dad, did you see me out there? I cost the Bar the match. How smart am I?" But Angle's like, "Well, yeah, I've got all these other things to deal with.
Other things on my mind here."
And then Jordan's like, "Oh, yeah, so Seth, I think we need to keep him sharp, Dad." Like, Jordan's the one with more experience here. Really, really nice character work.
He's the actual architect of the group.
And he says, "I think you should give him a match against Finn Balor, real sharpen him up." When really it's Rollins who's kind of taken on Jordan as a protege, however reluctantly. And Kurt, still, showing that he's an incompetent Raw general manager who is unconsciously favouring his son. It's more to get him out the way than to go, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, Jordan." Makes it. So that's our main event for the evening.
I mentioned earlier that there was going to be something else that showed that Kurt Angle is incompetent as a Raw GM, because you have to be unless you're a McMahon or Helmsley. He didn't have a main event booked for Raw.
Yes.
Unless JJ was there, he didn't have a main event.
Yeah, it falls apart, most of this stuff, when you look at it deeply.
In all fairness, neither did SmackDown.
The Revival were next up, beating a local team in quick fashion. One of whom, you're going to tell me this?
No, you go ahead, you tell me.
Is Bayley's fiance.
So he's the biggest heel on the roster.
But they beat them in quick fashion with a shatter machine, and they cut a mighty fine promo.
Oh, this was a great promo.
Yeah. In the middle of the ring, who wasn't Renee, was it?
Charlie. Because I've actually written her name there, Charlie in the ring.
And it's Dasher on SmackDown. I'll get there eventually. They call themselves professional wrestlers.
We're not sports entertainers, Jack. We're professional wrestlers. Man alive, he's such a good promo. I'm such a big fan of Scott Dawson. He's just such a wicked promo.
Yeah, old school, definitely. But like old school, so 80s old school. And this is where it could be awesome, or it could be very bad.
Oh yeah, these guys are getting killed next week.
And I've done it wrong. Charlie says, "Oh, it's Raw 25th anniversary next week. There's going to be so many legends. Which ones are you most looking forward to meeting?" And
like their children.
Yeah, and they say, "Well, not DX, because they ruined the wrestling business. They're not about wrestling." So, to me, that sounds, well, we're going to get a segment or maybe even a match between the Revival and an iteration of DX. I'm hoping the Revival are going over.
Oh, no, mate. I can tell you instantly what's going to happen here, because they did this with the Ascension just a couple of years ago when the Ascension debuted, and they're just like, whoa, we're the best here, and then they just got killed by all the legends. They're just going to rinse and repeat the exact same thing. The Revival are going to come out, talk about cut a promo. We're not sports entertainers, Jack. We're professional wrestlers. Out come the Dudleys, out come the APA, out come whatever other tag teams they've got there. Headlined, of course, by DX, the greatest tag team in the Attitude Era, according to WWE.
They won it. They won the war.
They did. They started it and won it in the same segment. And they're the architects of the Attitude Era. And then they all destroyed them. Clothesline from hell, probably a table spot, pedigrees all round, sweet chin music's all round, and then the DX music plays and everyone cheers.
Well, let's hope. We'll see. So the next few matches we're going to stash through because they were all a bit boring and inconsequential. First up, Roman Reigns beating both Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas.
This went way longer than it needed to.
Yeah, in the usual Miz Taraj handicap template that we see all the time.
Great line from Booker T here. How many guys would you see in this match? Mate, Finn Balor, 3 weeks ago. You were there for it.
So Roman Reigns won there, setting up the Miz match for the Raw 25th anniversary. Sonya Deville beat Sasha Banks. Again, just another combination of the same 6 women that we've seen forever. Paige and Mandy Rose. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
We're on ringside along with Mickie James and Bayley in the opposite corner.
Yep.
And yeah, we got a mention of Paige not being in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
Of a neck injury.
I missed this, actually. I didn't hear Tom say this on commentary. Todd Phillips say this on commentary. I completely missed it. But yeah, so they announced that Paige will not be competing in the Royal Rumble. Interesting, they said, not the Royal Rumble, perhaps saving a retirement speech if a retirement is happening for a bigger show, you know, and not to be overshadowed by something like by Raw 25 or the Royal Rumble. Booker T in this match, talking about Sonya Deville, said, "Not since Ken Shamrock have we seen an MMA fighter in WWE." Corey Graves, like that, was like, mate, we've got someone here called Brock Lesnar. He's the Universal Champion. And Booker T, I get the point that Booker T was trying to make, but he just made it very pointy. Just shouted back, originally.
Yes.
What he was trying to say was that who started in MMA and then went into the WWE.
Do you think that's what he meant, though?
Oh, totally not as well, because we've also got Shayna Baszler in NXT. Yeah. Shinsuke Nakamura has done MMA fighting, as has Alberto Del Rio.
I always think Jack Gallagher has an MMA record.
Yep.
But Sonya Deville, I really liked the finish of this match.
Yeah.
I like her kick. I like the kick, and that's the finish.
I think there is actually something in Sonya Deville. I think she's going to be another one of those wrestlers, like Elias a little bit, who didn't really do much in NXT, just sort of very much flew under the radar. But as soon as they go to the main roster, you're like, oh man, there's something here. Like, there's something you could really do with her here. And I'm actually quite a fan of Sonya Deville.
Next up, backstage, we had Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins sort of preparing for his main event. And Seth told Jordan to stop being his spokesperson. And it's like Seth is being very patient. He has to be, because he holds the tag team championships with this guy. But yeah, Rollins wasn't a fan of Jordan's tactic of coming out for the bar earlier in the night. Although that, I thought that was a good move from Jordan. But it does come back to affect him later. So yeah, there's tension being sowed. Mm-hmm. And then we had Woke and Matt Hardy beating Heath Slater. Correct Tron on the Titantron this week. Said delete rather than the old Hardy Boys one. Yeah, and a throwaway match. The delete chants were over, but that was about it.
I do like his music. I think the entrance music is really great. Not so much everything else.
Goldberg is going to go into the Hall of Fame.
He certainly is.
And then the main event.
Oh man, do you know what, this video package? I miss Tony Schiavone on commentary.
Yeah.
There was loads of clips of Tony Schiavone doing commentary, and I was like, man, he's good. And then, and we miss him dearly, there was a great line from Bobby Heenan where he'd said, I'd take Goldberg over Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like, what a wonderful line that is. That's brilliant.
So the main event finally was Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. And it wasn't until they said it on commentary that I was like, yeah, this is the rematch to SummerSlam 2016 for the inaugural Universal Championship. And then it felt like a big-time match after that for me. But it does show how far down these two guys have slipped in the card. Balor Club comes out in full force. They get separate entrances.
Yeah, why do they get separate entrances?
I prefer them all to come out together.
And why aren't they in Balor Club t-shirts? They're hawking their own merchandise.
Yeah, the nerdometer. But they're all very happy.
They're
Balor,
very happy.
Huge smile. And then the match, I really, really enjoyed.
Really, as a
Match of the night for me.
Yeah, great main event. Really, really enjoyed this.
So it was back and forth. It was quite slow-paced at times, but that helped it feel more like a real big slog war. And then there was a weird botch near the end, which apparently wasn't a botch. It looked like a botch.
I was going to say, this wasn't a botch. What had happened was I think it was Finn hit a move, they did a reversal, and he got Seth into a pin. The referee went down, realised he was out of position, but he'd already gone to put his hand down to count the 1. Then realised he was out of position, so then used his hand to move himself into position. So that looked like it was the first count, and the crowd thought that was the first count. Then he counted 2, and then Seth kicked out. It's awkward, but it wasn't really a botch. The referee was just moving himself into a better position, and the crowd thought something else had happened.
Well, so did the announcers.
So did Corey Graves.
Yeah, so they replayed that later, which still made it look like a botch.
Yeah.
Like it didn't. And then they played that up. Corey, the only guy with credibility on the announcers team, which is difficult when he's the more heelish of them all, said, look, this is, Balor was cheated.
You could argue that Balor deserved the victory. But I thought this was a really, really great match. And then Rollins, apparently his knee move was called the Ripcord. Apparently it did have a name.
Okay.
They said it in commentary.
The knee.
It wasn't the knee. We just said he got in for the Ripcord. So I've written here, so it's called the Ripcord.
But sometimes it was definitely called King's Landing.
Yeah.
I don't. It had many names.
It had many names. The knee.
Yeah.
That knee. That move.
What a weird, just ethereal move that never properly happened.
It's because it never got over.
I liked it.
But you really like the Rainmaker.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Which is so. But then actually, JJ tripped Finn Balor on the outside because the bar ran down and they battled with Gallows. They went for Jordan, but Gallows and Anderson kind of got involved.
Jordan not getting physical.
Nope, Jordan just lucked out of it. But actually, which worked perfectly for his character.
Yes.
The reason why the bar out here is this little dick's fault, and he's not getting hurt at all. These other guys, these 4 people are now fighting each other. Instead, he trips Finn Balor. Finn Balor goes onto his knees, stands up a little bit.
Seth doesn't see that.
Seth doesn't see it, and then Seth hits the blackout. The curb stomp. The curb stomp is back.
To a huge pop.
Yeah, it's a move that we haven't seen in a number of years now. But I'll be honest, I was surprised at the amount of OMG this got. Because I'm like, he's brought his old move back. It took me by surprise. I was like, but he's brought his move back. Everyone was treating this like CM Punk had come back.
I mean, it's a great move, and it was a real shame when the pedigree made sense. But it's nice I'm really happy that it's back. I'm really happy to see the reaction it got, because imagine a world where moves are over. Imagine if every wrestler had a move like that.
Most wrestlers have a move that's over.
But
Name me a wrestler who has a move that isn't over.
Okay, most of the mid-card.
Such as?
Glorious DDT. I don't think that's particularly over.
But people recognise that as a finish, and they pop when he hits it.
Do they pop because it's a cool move, or do they pop because they know the finish is coming?
Yeah, they know that is his finisher. So that technically means that it's over.
That's a larger debate. But I feel like maybe it's just me not, growing up, but I'm not as excited about certain moves as I used to be. I feel like that's a presentation problem, because when they're packaged right, if I watch a Marty Scurll match, I hugely pop for every other move that he does, because he's built them up as their own spots. Whereas these days, I don't really care about a dive or...
Well, no. And again, we've had this discussion before. WWE have trained you as a viewer to pop for entrances and finishes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's nice to see a curb stomp that's over as a move.
Yeah, but it's more of a finisher, though, no?
I know what you mean.
Surely, we're kind of agreeing on the same thing, but you're slightly arguing it differently.
So the curb stomp is back as the blackout on, as some people pointed out, on Martin Luther King week celebration
day, I think it was.
Was it the actual day?
I think it was actual day, yeah.
So people thought that was a bit insensitive. But hey, it's back. That's great. So Seth doesn't know he technically cheated to win there. And you thought it could play into a Rollins heel turn, but I got that Seth is trying to be a good person ever since he started on this, path towards, what would the word be?
Redemption?
Redemption, that's it, yeah.
I think that's TNA's next pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. He's trying to do things the right way, and to know that his tag partner did this for him with the best intentions, but it soured this. That trying to. What's the? I'm not doing this well. Because it was the SummerSlam 2016 rematch that he lost, and now he's won this rematch. I felt like this was a big deal for Rollins, but just as equally, Jordan's probably sitting there thinking, I didn't do anything wrong. I helped my tag partner. Yeah. And that's why it's so interesting.
That's why I really like Jason Jordan. He is my favourite thing on Raw at the moment. I'm really, really enjoying his storyline. And his work with Seth is so great.
And then they held on Balor for ages, which made me think they were going to do that heel turn. We'll get to the SmackDown review shortly, but have we got a treat for you on Monday? We're setting it up now. It is the Royal Rumble Fantasy Booking Warfare. Me and Luke are both going to try and book the men's Rumble match.
Yep, you've asked for it. It's back. People have asked if we dropped the Fantasy Booking Warfare. It's just we didn't do one in December, and we haven't really found the opportunity to do one in January. But yes, the Fantasy Booking Warfare returns next week.
They take a long time. That's why. A lot of brain power goes into those.
Ollie's nearly finished his.
Yeah, well, we're doing them tomorrow.
I haven't started mine.
Would you please take this? So we put a call out. We need your help, WrestleRamble viewers, to support WrestleTalk on Patreon so we can get better internet. And then we can hopefully do live streams and stuff like that in the future. So go over to our Patreon page, see how you can donate or pledge, or if there's anything, you get rewards if you pledge. It's not just it's not a charity. So thank you to those who've donated over $10 or more, which include Paulie Dangerously Jarman,
Arnie K. The K stands for coolest dude ever.
Little Drummer Boy Scott Drummond,
John McBride of Frankenstein,
The Craftsman Blake Carpenter,
Hard as Nails Nick Schiff,
Michael Name Your Price,
where are we?
Notorious
Little Dre,
Courtney Villainous Havoc Summers, who you can follow on Twitter @VillainousHavoc,
John Wick Chapter 2,
David Hendricks' God Mackenzie,
Christopher the Condor Johnson,
Kevin Razmataz Chapel,
Liam, I said Walsh, not Welsh, Walsh,
Rob Pontin Problems Pontin,
The Shady Shader Logath,
Swinging Penis Pendulum, wow.
Sean Far From Blandford,
Take a Seat John Cheraviakov,
the Chairman of the Board Jer Personen,
and Daniel Bram Let the Dogs Out.
It's a SmackDown review, Maggle. I love it. We got us a flying Uso.
So, SmackDown, before we get into the review, there's a poll above our head right now. If you vote for which one you preferred, Raw or SmackDown this week, well, that will count rather than at the end of the video, because sometimes it gets lost with the new end cards. Jinder Mahal took on Xavier Woods to open SmackDown.
So Todd Phillips opened up the show and said that this is all about the United States Championship, and boy, he wasn't lying. This show was all about the United States Championship. It dominated the entire show, and it was quite actually refreshing to have the New Day come out instead. Like, I was just waiting to hear either Ride of the Valkyries or Here Comes the Money or the AJ Styles theme song or Kevin Owens. It's the New Day. And I was like, the New Day era. And they were just doing their short little promo about how much they like America and pancakes. And we had a match. And it was a long match. It was a long match that went through 2 commercial breaks.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good match, but it was a long match.
I thought it was a fine match. It was refreshing to see this format change, because so many times SmackDown opens with Shane McMahon coming out and recapping what happened last week and doing awful exposition for how he's feeling, and then you have like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who were completely missing from this show, and an AJ Styles thing, and it's become repetitive. And you think, oh yes, you're going to have almost a whole show devoted to the US title. That will make the US title feel really good and big. On paper, that would work, sure.
Yeah.
It was, but this was not a good episode of SmackDown.
No, and I feel really bad as well. We got quite a lot of heat when we did the Raw versus SmackDown review last week for being too negative, which I don't think we were overly negative on either show, but a lot of people said that we were very negative and it was very difficult to watch because we were so negative. And I suddenly came out of that Raw review, even though I liked the show, being like, oh man, people are going to say I was too negative about that show as well. And then you joked, oh, just be positive about the SmackDown episode. That's going to be difficult to do because, as you quite rightly said, on paper, this should have been a great episode of SmackDown. This was a show that was built around 3 matches. 3 long matches. If those matches had been 3-star, 3.5-star quality, maybe even up to 4-star, this could have been an excellent episode of SmackDown. But unfortunately, what we got was 3 long matches that never really got any better than 2 stars, maybe even 1.5 stars, and a 6-woman tag match that was, you take it or leave it.
Who's doing the star ratings now? This guy here.
Dave Meltzer over here. But yeah, so this match was fine. It's every Jinder Mahal match you've ever seen. Jinder took the entirety of the match, really. Xavier got a couple of hope spots at the end, but then Jinder just hit the Colossus and won.
So what I got from this match is how fun the New Day's opening promo was. And the way it just felt so different. It was an in-ring promo, but Xavier Woods, Kofi, and Big E were presenting themselves like it was a presidential campaign. And they, the US title, elect Woods for America, make America great again, or whatever. And they were touting the benefits of pancakes in this. And it genuinely made me interested in this match. Like, that's how good a promo the New Day, Woods in particular, are. I cannot say the same about Bobby Roode and Mojo. That's just a match that was going to happen to get to the next match.
Yeah.
Whereas I was invested in Woods here. And, like you said, Jinder Mahal took 90% of the match. But when Xavier started coming back, I was surprised by how much I like Xavier, even when he's not in the as a singles competitor.
I said this in the SmackDown review, but I really wish Xavier Woods had won this match. Because had Xavier Woods won this, the main event would have been infinitely more interesting. And considering that Bobby was going to win anyway, you didn't really need Jinder in that position other than for Bobby to beat a heel. But Xavier's shtick that he's been doing in this US title thing, where he's like these presidential campaigns, he's doing loads of stuff on social media as well, but WWE don't really care about that unless they ask you to do it. It really made Xavier feel like he should have gone further in this tournament. I would have much preferred to have seen Xavier win here. But and I thought he's great. He's such a good wrestler. He's a great promo. He's a great personality. The only thing that was missing from this is he should have been in his Consequences Creed outfit.
Oh yeah, for the US flag.
Exactly. He should have been in his favourite, one of his heroes growing up, as Todd Phillips pointed out in commentary, is Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies. So it would have been great if he'd have been decked out in that gear as well.
That's his TNA character, if you're not familiar. And he sold the Colossus very brutally.
It's him and AJ Styles are the best people on the planet at selling that move.
So Xavier, very good babyface, but unfortunately he lost. Next up was one of the worst parts of SmackDown. It was to continue a trend throughout the night, and that is, let's cut a promo on a mobile phone with your name in big letters before the promo.
At least
Baron Corbin.
At least they filmed it landscape.
Yes, I guess that's a good point. So Corbin just said how he's going to win the Rumble and go on to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I just thought, after your year... you're, I know you've got to save face and say this sort of stuff. That's the idea. Everyone should be vying for that top spot, but...
I don't see Baron Corbin winning this Royal Rumble.
It was so far-fetched, it was ridiculous.
I don't think I see Baron Corbin winning any Royal Rumble. I'm going to go on a limb here, and people can find this video in 20 years' time, because the internet will always be around, because there's no nuclear apocalypse or anything like that. People can find this video in 20 years' time. I'm going to put money down here and say that Baron Corbin is never going to win a Royal Rumble.
How much money?
I'm not. Oh, did I say put money down?
Yes.
No, I'm just gonna. Okay, I'm putting my stake in the. I'm putting my flag in the ground.
Oh, okay. So no real consequences.
No real consequences, Creed, for this. But I'm gonna say that Baron Corbin never wins a Royal Rumble. Watch him win the 2018 one.
But if Xavier Woods cut a promo about how he's going to win the Rumble and go on to Main Event Mania, I know it's not going to happen. But I'm like, cool, yeah, okay, I'm on board for you thinking it's going to happen. But Baron Corbin, it was too much for me. AJ Styles cut a promo backstage with Renee Young. This was AJ's only appearance on the show, the world champion.
Certainly did. He clearly went to the Randy Orton school of insulting Kevin Owens by calling him fat, and then tried to make Cammy happen.
Which is a amalgamation, a portmanteau word of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Kevin and Sami. Cammy.
Yeah. It's biscuit butt all over again. They're going to keep saying it because they think the crowd will chant it.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it doesn't even. It's not a funny word.
No.
No, it's not like, when you can combine a bulldog and a shih tzu.
No, exactly.
That makes a funny new word.
Yeah.
This is just a nonsense word. But you thought you were done with the promos.
Oh no, we got more promos, mate.
You got all the promos.
You want promos? We got promos.
It's more promo than ever. All of the SmackDown women not standing in a row, but in segments after each other in this mobile phone format.
I gotta be honest, I like the mobile phone thing.
Not this way.
No, I liked the content aside. I liked the fact that they were filming these on like WWE live events. It just made it feel like these guys aren't.
They weren't.
They were.
No, this was all of the women's promos were done in the same locker room.
Oh no, yeah, I'm talking about like the Randy Orton and Baron Corbin and Shinsuke Nakamura ones, because like Randy Orton was standing inside a WWE live ring. Like I really liked that of doing it. But yeah, they were all standing in the same room. Just like you could have just put a camera there.
And they like. If you could see the light and the backdrop, and all they did was change the colour of the light depending on a babyface or heel was cutting the promo. And it's like you said, you've got the light set up, you've got the backdrop set up. Use an actual camera.
Yeah.
But that is nitpicking. But the only reason we're nitpicking and that stuff is obvious is because this was really bad. the whole point of the mobile phone is to make things feel a bit more realistic, like the Mojo Rawley promos on social media and Xavier Woods. The Baron Corbin and Randy Orton ones, I agree, they do feel a bit more real because they are like backstage and walking around in the ring. But these ones came across as so fake, and they were so short, so it was just each woman going, here's my catchphrase.
Yeah.
Here's my catchphrase.
I'm going the Royal Rumble. Feel the glow.
Ruby Riott. I really like Ruby Riott, but because all these were so bad, and because they're all together, it really stuck out how bad they were. Just the fact that Ruby Riott was obviously looking at herself in the screen rather than the actual camera, because her eyes were slightly looking to the right. That annoyed the hell out of me.
It annoyed the heckins out of you, didn't it? What I will say, though, and this kind of ties into your point you made about Xavier Woods, I really liked Becky's
Hers
promo.
was the best.
Hers was far and away the best of the lot, and it really made me invested in her in the Royal Rumble. And I don't think that Becky is going to win, but I really want to see her win now.
She got the biggest pop from the live crowd as well.
As well she should. She's brilliant.
But I thought this was real bad. Like, it wasn't watchable. Then we had the second United States title tournament match. Bobby Roode beating Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, this kind of started off hot a little bit because you had Mojo hit a really nice back elbow, and then he did the pounce, and the referee nearly got in the way. Kind of like that, but then just completely, the crowd they were dead. Like, no one was popping anything. It was just mostly rest holds. Roode came back in like the last, 10 seconds and hit the Glorious DDT and won.
Yeah, it was like 3 moves off of, have I got it here? No, I haven't got the play-by-play. But it was the last 45 seconds. Bobby Roode took the match and then won with a Glorious DDT. Yeah,
it was a really nothing match. It was a real shame, to be honest. And it's kind of been indicative of Bobby on the main roster, really, which is just what has Bobby done since coming up to SmackDown? He has had matches.
Yeah.
He's just had some matches. Nothing has really been above... I'm doing the star things again. Nothing's really been above 2.5 stars. He's just had a load of matches.
Mainly with Dolph Ziggler.
And it's just such a shame as well because he's so good. He can have really great matches if he's given time and a really great storyline that you can sink your teeth into. Hopefully coming out of this show, if the storyline is going the way that most people think it is going, then he can get something he can get behind it, and the WWE will be able to put some time and effort into. But for now, this was very much just it was a match.
Yeah, the problem is we know that it's frustrating because we know his character stuff is there, but at the moment he's just being presented as a theme tune and a robe.
Yes, and
so there's nothing to sink your teeth into. And
kind of back to my point as well about I wish that Woods had gone through in the first round because Jinder Mahal went through. Going into this match, you're like, oh well, Bobby's winning then because the babyface has got to face the heel. Whereas if Woods had gone through, it would have cast a bit more doubt on who was winning this match, which would have made it slightly more interesting.
Yeah, anything we'd want here. I thought Mojo was good in this, though. I'm really enjoying his heel work. I know you said last week You want him to change his entrance.
Don't like his entrance.
But I think he's doing enough in his facials where he's angry enough where I'm not like, oh, this is hype fun. This is hype. Oh, crap. He's coming. He's running this way. Get out of the way.
No, I'm not keen. His music is diabolically bad.
And the important part in the actual match was that Mojo targeted Bobby's ribs. And Bobby would sell the ribs throughout the night and in the main event. But, okay, this was probably the best part of SmackDown. Because after the match, the Singh brothers jump Bobby, who won, and then Jinder comes out and he's like, I'm going to face you and I'm going to win next week.
Did you notice that one of the Singh brothers hurt his ankle?
No.
So they beat up Bobby, and this is when I had to go back and rewatch the beatdown, where it was like zooming in and out and lots of cuts. It was difficult to watch the second time. When they dove out the ring, Samil... It was. I went back. I double checked.
Yeah.
He got out the ring very awkwardly and landed and basically fell over when he got out the ring and then was hobbling. And Samir had to grab him and carry him back up the ramp. So I'm sure it's not a serious injury or anything like
Hopefully
that. But
not.
yeah, I think he just probably tweaked his ankle
Maybe
a little bit.
Sprain.
Yeah.
Jinder says that I'll face you next week. Bobby's like, hey, I'm a baby face. I'll fight you now. Hometown crowd, yes, crowd. And the crowd really wanted to see this. Jinder, of course, being a heel, is like,
Cartoon villain.
I'll do it on my time. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, I know where this is going. It's going to be next week. They've already announced it for next week. It's the go home to the Royal Rumble. But then the Singh brothers look over Jinder's shoulder at something you can't yet see, and they're looking worried. And it's Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan's like, well, we're going to have the match tonight. And I was like, I didn't actually expect that to happen.
It was funny as well, because when Roode said, let's do this tonight, my thought was like, yeah, that's going to be great. That sets up a really nice show-long storyline of finishing off this tournament. The crowd weren't expecting it. That'll get a nice big pop out of them. And then Jinder was like, ha, no. And I was like, oh, you dastardly heel. But you're right. As soon as Bryan came out and made the match, I was like, cool, I'm actually looking forward to the main event now.
So then we had the Randy Orton promo that we've already mentioned on his phone.
Yep.
And then we got
Do you want to take a guess at what happened in this match?
With a women's match, you say?
Yeah.
Well, probably it's some combination of the Riot Squad versus Charlotte, Becky Lynch and Naomi,
I mean,
right?
that's exactly what happened. But, you could... I pretty much wrote down my notes for this match before the match had even happened. I was like...
the Riot Squad won, though.
Well, the Riot Squad did win. I think that was the only bit I hadn't filled out, which was that babyfaces dominate early, heels cut them off during the break, heels have rest holds, hot tag, and then you can just fill in the rest of it. This time, it was Ruby Riott cheap shot on the outside to Naomi, and Liv Morgan hit the whatever her finisher is and won.
A very Harley Quinn, Liv Morgan. She's all her mannerisms and stuff in the ring she's emphasising the Harley Quinn side of her character more.
And as someone pointed out to me on Twitter, who's the one... Remember I told you about this the guy that got really annoyed at us when we said that Liv Morgan wasn't ready for the main roster, a point which has more or less been proven. But he pointed out, quite correctly, that Liv Morgan is undefeated on SmackDown at the moment.
Whoa.
She's the only member of the Riot Squad that is undefeated.
No, Sarah Logan.
No, Sarah Logan.
Sarah Logan.
I'm
going to win Rumble. With your gay meat.
Far and away, she was the worst promo in that segment. Her and Tamina were... Tamina cut a promo, and I forgot that she'd cut a promo.
Let's not... Yeah, Tamina run away with that one. At least Sarah Logan's got the fun accent. So Ruby Riott is bloody great, and Morgan pinned Naomi for the win. So this is the same match that we've been having for well over a month now.
2 weeks ago, we had this exact same match, but with the welcoming committee.
So why... So not the exact same match.
6-woman tag, same match.
So you're heading into the Royal Rumble. You have the first ever women's Royal Rumble. Why would you then put all of the women's, on both brands, all of the women's division in holding repetitive patterns? So the women's Royal Rumble match now isn't something that I'm excited to see people go up against each other for. I'm just curious about who the winner will be.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about seeing, this dynamic's going to play off this dynamic. Of the 20 women on the main roster, the only storyline is Asuka, Nia Jackson, Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
And Alexa Bliss isn't going to be in the match.
No, so
she's a champion.
But I suppose you could argue that it's SmackDown against the Riot Squads. I suppose in a way,
Yeah.
but it's been a storyline that has been just pummeled into the ground. That there's no interest in it, quite frankly, and. Yeah, maybe there's something with Absolution on Raw, but I can't see what their storyline is.
But that's been derailed because of the unfortunate Paige situation.
Yeah, unless I guess it's just Raw versus the Absolution. Maybe that's what the storyline is. But you're absolutely right that you look at the Men's Royal Rumble throughout history. It's always been about there's like 5 or 6 different stories that are going into this that are all going to like build up and they're going to pay off into WrestleMania matches. Here, it's just that this is literally going to be women having a Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Which is a shame.
Which is a real shame. Such a shame.
So next up we had the Usos cutting a promo.
We had Nakamura doing his Royal Rumble promo, which was fine.
Oh, was that? I've got that as after this. Yeah, another backstage.
Oh, you're right.
promo
It was
thing.
after this. Yeah, sorry.
So the Usos are backstage with Dasha, not Charlie.
Oh well, I mean, I've written here an animatronic from It's a Small World. She's bad. She was another level of bad here. Oh my God, I went back and rewatched this. Says how bad she was. It was just. These women are in the Royal Rumble. And now, welcome the Usos.
Segway. But the Usos cut a promo, which was not their best. It was a bit annoying. They were sort of, oh, am I Jimmy? Are you Jimmy? I don't care for that stuff. And then Gable and Benjamin jumped them from behind and they said, I've got 2 words for you.
No, so no, I know what your names
know
are.
what you're called.
Former champion.
Yes. So good heel work there. I would have preferred a bit of a bigger beatdown, seeing that, you could create a proper blood feud thing going into the 2 out of 3 Falls match. But yeah, I mean, if the Jey Uso DUI arrest reports are to be believed, which happened over the weekend, which they're official, I guess, WWE might potentially take the titles off the Usos at the Rumble.
Yeah, someone pointed this out on the Wrestling Observer board. They kind of mentioned that Zeb Coulter had told a story on his, or Dutch Mantel, I should say, had told a story on his podcast, because of course he's got a podcast. Everyone has a podcast these days. When Jack Swagger got busted for weed, I think it was weed, when he was driving under the influence. And that was just when they were building him into that big world title program with Alberto Del Rio, when he'd just been partnered with Zeb Coulter. And when Jack, I think he called him Zack Swagger then. When Jack Swagger got back to WWE TV, he thought, I'm going to walk straight up to Vince McMahon. I'm just going to say, can I have a minute of your time? So he walked up to Vince McMahon and said, can I have a minute of your time? Vince McMahon just looked at him and said, Jack, you're an idiot, and walked away. And that was it. And Jack Swagger's push was dead and buried.
Well, he is an idiot.
He is an idiot.
I can see both sides there. If you're an employer of a company, contractor, and someone did that on your watch, and you were giving them a big push, I can
imagine what would happen if that had happened to me.
Yeah, your push would be derailed.
I'd be on my keister.
So the Nakamura backstage promo next, then a Fashion Files skit, which was more of a clip to push you online, because why would you want to watch one of the better things on the actual show? And then we had the main event of Blue Trunks.
Oh man,
Blue Trunks versus Blue Trunks.
This was the battle of the Blue Trunks. It was Blue Trunks in a ring with blue ropes in an arena with blue lights with a massive blue backdrop of the stage. As I said in my SmackDown review, there was more blue than the top shelf of a newsagent's.
Nice. Blue Meanie was probably at home with a tear in his eye.
Yeah.
And this is what the Blue World Order is finally here.
Oh, that should have been in my review. This
Sorry.
is like signalling the incoming.
Yeah.
I mean, this was foreshadowing the incoming of the Blue World Order.
So Bobby Roode was in blue trunks. Jinder Mahal was in blue trunks.
Oh, man.
Why don't they coordinate these things?
I was going to say,
backstage?
isn't it embarrassing when you show up to work wearing the exact same outfit?
But it's on brand.
Yeah, it is on brand.
It is SmackDown.
Yeah.
Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan came out to ringside with the United States belt on a little podium thing. So that was nice, made the belt feel like a big deal. And by
But the belt was always there.
Oh, was it?
The belt was there.
Night?
The belt was there, but they came out to sit next to it,
Yes.
so they could then present the winner, which I like as well, because that makes it feel like it's a big deal that your employers, technically, or your contract, take the belt in and present you with this vacant United States Championship. I really like that aspect of it.
So by this point, I'm willing. Like, SmackDown is not dead for me. There were bits I really found boring and didn't enjoy, and it was pretty below average by this point. But I thought, if these two, have a decent, a semi-decent main event, this good work for elevating the United States title. Unfortunately, they had a rather tedious bout And as it went on, I just thought what you said, like, this would be so much more interesting with the more over people from the previous matches.
Main event would have been so much more over if Xavier Woods was in there.
Because you got the New Day riling up the crowd at ringside.
Throwing pancakes out, which people really like.
You would. The problem with that was Roode would become the heel.
Yeah.
So maybe Mojo Rawley wins.
But that would have been a better... Actually, yeah, and if Mojo Rawley had won, it would have been the results that no one had expected, and it elevates then two new guys.
Land of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I could have really got behind that. There was a moment in commentary during that match that really made me think of you.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it was a conversation that you and I had on... I think it was the last episode, because we were pre-recording them, so I forget what we talked about. But you talked about how you think of 2000 as 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in the similar boat as well. If you say the year 2000 to me, I'm like, yeah, it was about 10 years ago. It wasn't, it was 18 years ago. There was a moment during this when Todd Phillips said that this is the first time in 12 years that the vacant United States Championship is on the line on an episode of SmackDown. And I went, oh, really, 12 years? And I wrote down. And then he said, that was in 2006. And I was like...
Oh, no!
I was like, my God, 2006 was 12 years ago. How did that happen?
I left school at 2006.
I nearly graduated in 2006. I graduated university in 2007. 2006 was when that was like when I really got back into wrestling. I was in my second year of university. Oh man, it was a shock to the system at 6:30 this morning.
So, this match wasn't as interesting, but the story was Jinder is working over Bobby's ribs that were injured in the previous match.
It was the exact same match as the Woods match, apart from with Bobby Roode instead of Xavier Woods. It's every Jinder Mahal match you've ever seen.
Yeah, and Roode, so the Colossus is going to be hit at the end, and Roode reversed it into the glorious DDT. And Bobby went. I thought he was going to kick out.
Like, they didn't even do a series of near falls or anything like that, making this feel like it's a main event. It just felt like any other match on SmackDown. That's not a main event. It was just could have happened at any point throughout the show. And I'm all for, putting people down with one move and trying to get moves over so that you're not always expecting the kick out.
Yeah.
But this is a championship match. You should make these feel like it's a bit of a bigger deal.
The end of a tournament.
The end of a tournament, no less, that's been going on for a few weeks. An end of a tournament that was meant to culminate at the Royal Rumble. I'm glad that it didn't culminate at the Royal Rumble, by the way. That show's got enough on as it is. But, it didn't feel like the end of the tournament. It didn't feel like Bobby Roode had gone on this epic journey to win this championship. It just felt that Bobby Roode's now the champion. It's his first singles championship on the main roster, and it just felt like it meant absolutely nothing.
Totally. Like, when Dolph Ziggler vacated the United States title, that was meant, and it did, it generated a lot of interest. Oh, what are they going to do with the belt? And I guess when they announced the tournament, wow, they're really elevating the United States title. As soon as Bobby won, and as soon as that little logo, the copyright trademark thing in the bottom left-hand corner appeared, I was like, the United States title is exactly back where it was a month ago.
Yeah.
A mid-card thing that I don't really care about.
I was actually really surprised. And I was just expecting this, and it didn't happen. But because the match was over so abruptly, and the celebration there wasn't any time given to the celebration either, I was expecting a Dolph Ziggler run-in.
Yeah.
I was expecting, maybe them to do the little thing in the corner and then do the big surprise angle out of nowhere that takes you, that kind of wakes you back up and be like, oh my God, something big is happening. But no, the show just went off the air, and then Mixed Match Challenge happened.
Yeah. Well, what did you prefer, Raw or SmackDown?
Raw, 100% Raw.
I'm going to go Raw as well. Well, that's all we've got time for, so click the videos that have just appeared beneath us to catch up with the latest WrestleRamble or WrestleTalk news, and subscribe to this channel. This has been Luke Owen, I've been Ollie Davis, and that was Rambling.